Fagbenle, you played Luke in The Handmaid's Tale. We're currently towards the beginning of season 2. We're all kind of losing our minds because of the tension of this season, how much it's ratcheted up. It's already upping the ante, and it's so dark and frightening vision of extremism and oppression. What were your thoughts when you first started seeing the scripts coming for season 2?
It was really exciting, you know, because after the season 1 that we had, and knowing that the source material was so vast and we had so much to draw from, trying to figure out, well, where the hell are these guys going to go? I mean, I know we've got these crazy talented writers like Bruce Miller, and so I had my faith. And when we got the scripts through, I was like, wow. But to be honest, and they were amazing. But to be honest, I guess I always sit at the end of movies and see all the names that come up at the end of the movie, and I think, wow, there was a whole company of people, 400 people worked on this movie, and it really does take that, I think, to make the show. And so you don't really know until you've seen like a first cut of something. You know, of course, every day you turn up Elisabeth Moss's acting, you know you're going to get some gold. Yeah, we've been really pleased with the way it's turned out.
What's really surprised me is that obviously season 1 ends where the book ends, and so all of us were thinking, what the hell are they going to do with season 2? And I still think it's just as timely and relevant as ever. What do you think about that?
Well, you know, I think unfortunately we live in a world, in a universe where these stories have kind of always been timely. We've lived in a world which is kind of dominated by men, and where women bear the brunt of a lot of men's idiocy and ambition, and so yeah, it's timely now, which is a sad thing to say when it's been timely for millennia.
Yeah, it absolutely has. And so Luke is still in Canada with Moira, hoping to eventually see his wife June. Talk us through how you wanted to portray Luke this season as opposed to how you were portraying him last season. Were there any differences?
Well, yeah, I think the main one is it's kind of like there was this event, there was this line in his life which created a before and after, and it's when obviously he lost his family and was made an immigrant, a refugee to Canada. And so it just really kind of examining what that does to the psyche, you know, how deflating that can be, how numbing that can be, to be so disempowered, to have the things that you love most be taken away from you. And because in season 1 you get to see a lot of Luke in flashback, and which is happy. He doesn't have any of these experiences. He's never been through a trauma. He's like most of us, you know, this first generation of human beings that have never really known war. I mean, at least if you live in, you know, the quote unquote West, then we've never known war. We've never had our beaches bombed. We've never had to be refugees. And so this is a completely new idea for someone like Luke. And so, yeah, so really it was just exploring that.
And also, I mean, your part of the story seems to be focusing more on the activism and resistance that generally seems to rise up in times of oppression. It's a really interesting parallel to what Elisabeth Moss's character is dealing with back in Gilead. And so I'm always wondering when I'm watching the show play out, do the actors and writers, do you all as creative people making the show draw from the present day when you're trying to portray this particular circumstance?
You know, I kind of feel like, for me, I just try and connect best I can on a human-to-human level. And I know that refugee in Syria and that guy who lived in the 17th century someplace, we have a connection, and us as human beings and our faculties of emotion are connected. So I just try and be present with the text and try and portray that as best I can as a human being, and in a way hope that other people make the connections to its kind of contemporaneous nature.
Yeah, and also the show is obviously told from a woman's perspective. It's a feminist show, obviously because of the source material that we're all so familiar with. And so I think that there could have been a danger if the show wasn't done properly for the male characters to kind of fall into the background. That absolutely doesn't happen with you and with Joseph Fiennes and Max Minghella. Like, those characters are so integral, especially now in season 2. I've seen up to episode 6, so I'm a little bit more ahead of what most people have seen. And I'm wondering that, are you still conscious of trying to show how these men are navigating a world in which they still have more power and privilege than they do even now, and yet they're having to kind of deal with that dichotomy.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? I luckily that's the challenge of the writers. So
Yeah,
I just do what they say. But it is interesting, you know, kind of how do we see each of these characters, you know, because I mean, I think especially with mine and Max's characters, on one side you could say that, you know, well, Max and Luke are the quote unquote good guys in a way, but in a way, I sometimes think a lot about what Luke didn't do when he could have done. Like, what I didn't see Luke at that march. You know, where was Luke during that march? You know, what kind of activism was Luke being involved in before it's too late? You know, it's all well and good that one isn't an offensive man, but to not be a contributory man, I think kind of is an indictment in itself. And I'm also often in two minds about even Nick, because, you know, for as good and supportive in the love that he has for June, I think, yeah, but to some extent, he still is supporting the beast. You know, you know, even if he does have moments of subversion, fundamentally, he's still part of this system. He didn't decide that he's going to try and get away. Whatever he's been doing for the last couple of years. So I don't know if any of the men get off scot-free in this.
Yeah, and that's kind of interesting, isn't it? It's more interesting that way as opposed to them being heroes just trying to use them. So that's kind of cool. We got to learn more about Luke in episode 3, Baggage. And I know a lot of us are really keen to learn more about him. Do you know if we got, I mean, you know, because you've shot it, but are we going to delve deeper into his backstory and his motivations?
You know, we do get a little bit more backstory and motivations. But actually, I think the main trajectory of this season is still some more present stuff. I think the most exciting things, the things that excite me the most about what people are going to get to see this season are the developments that happen in Canada.
Really? Okay, because that's what we haven't seen enough of, I think. So that's exciting.
Yeah, but we're trying to do 10 seasons, you know, so let's not, you know.
Let's just hold our horses, okay? We've got plenty of time. So season 2 has finished shooting, right? That's correct.
Yes.
So what was your last day on set like for season 2? Were you completely exhausted? Was it just like you just needed to have a little rest from Gilead and Canada and all that?
Oh, you know, I love to work. I'm one of those people who just like, I'm like, oh, weekend. So no, but there definitely is a sense, I feel like, at the end of a job like that, of accomplishment where you go, like, I know that I turned up every day and I gave my best. Like, however that might turn out, I gave my best. And it's a long process, 6.5 months we were filming for. And so to have that sense, to have that feeling is a really good one, actually. And also, yeah, I just love the cast. I love the crew. We've got this amazing DP, Colin Watkinson, who won the Emmy last year, and I want him to win the Emmy again this year. And yeah, just they're just such a beautiful group of people to be around. It was a celebration.
So, I mean, I think what you just said is true for anyone in any profession. You know, you show up and you do your best every day. But what's really cool is when you get your peers give you that pat on the back to say, you know, you did a really good job. Congratulations. And The Handmaid's Tale completely killed it last year at all the awards. You won lots of Emmys. What was that like to be on the Emmy-winning show where, you know, it kind of obliterated the competition and won everything that night?
Oh, sorry, you just broke up a little bit. Say the end again.
What was it like being on a show, on an Emmy-winning show that obliterated the competition that night at the Emmys? Was that fun?
I mean, really surreal and such a blessing, and I can't really express the gratitude I have that I've had the good fortune to have an experience like that. But at the same time, and this might be more due to my kind of philosophical dispositions, I also try and just remind myself that, you know, it's enough that I'm an artist and I get to act, and that's really enough to keep me happy, and that I can pay my bills by doing that. That is really plenty, and everything above that is just like icing on the cake. But the experience of that kind of icing, I mean, one of the greatest privileges of my life.
Yeah, very sweet icing. I mean, you've got a long background in theatre. You've done some TV and film work, but I would say primarily you're a theatre actor. And now you're on a massive hit show. How does that actually change your day-to-day life, if at all?
I don't know. I guess I do get recognized more now, and people propose to me on Instagram more. but yeah, not really. I'm still kind of like, you know, still figuring out how to make lunch and but yeah, but it definitely, yeah, I guess the biggest difference is a kind of profile thing, which is never, well, kind of like you said, I graduated drama school and I hadn't even considered TV. It wasn't even something that I was aspiring. It wasn't that I wasn't aspiring to. It just hadn't entered my head that television would be something that I could do. I was just going to be a theatre actor. So along with that, I never had in my head that I would go to the Emmys. It never even occurred to me. Like I never sat down as a kid and was like, oh, maybe one day. It just never entered my mind. And so yeah. So even stuff like this, interviews and being recognized on the street and stuff like that, and people asking stuff of you. That's I guess the biggest difference.
Yeah, I think it would be a massive change, probably really hard to get used to. So finally, something that we do, yeah.
It's really not that big. It's, you know, people are dealing with some real stuff. Here's the thing about doing Handmaids, you know, you start thinking about like refugees coming over from Syria, and I play a refugee in the show, and I think, gosh, imagine that. You're a trained professional, you lose your wife and daughter, you come to a land, how do they treat you on the streets? Those are real things that people are dealing with. You know, someone coming up to me and be like, can I take a selfie with you? I can manage it. It's fine.
Yeah, I'm sure it's just fine. But it's a really good point. And I mean, that's what the show does. It's about a lot of stuff. And for your part of it, I think that's what it highlights the most, which is so fascinating. So for the rest of it, I mean, I know obviously you can't give away what goes on in the rest of the season. We would love to know everything, because anyone watching this eventually will probably just want to know what the hell is going to happen, right? You can't say that. You're going to get fired. So what we'd like to ask is, if possible, could you give me 3 words that you would use to describe what we're in for the end of season 2?
I'll tell you this. I would say I'm gonna channel something now. I'm gonna give you Passover. I'm gonna give you Liberty-ish.
Wow.
And I'll give you loss.
Wow. People are going to be losing their freaking mind on social media over that. Thank you so much, OT, for sharing that. Thank you so much for your time this morning. I think that's good. It's cryptic enough, but it's enough that we can chew on until we see the rest of the season, because we're all just dying to see it. Thanks, mate. We really appreciate your time, and good luck for Handmaid's Tale season 2, mate.
All right, yeah, take care. And listen, hit me up. My new TV show, Max. I'm going to go into production for that. I'm writing and directing this one, and we're doing it over the summer. So make sure, I'd love to chat with you guys again when that's ready to come out.
Absolutely. Make sure we keep our eye out for Max, and we'll chat about it as soon as it premieres. How about we do that?
Great. All right, take care, mate.
Have a good one.
Bye.